So this is a gargantuan task, pun intended. I'm doing Castle Gargantua here for this video. This is an OSR Mega Dungeon creator, is what I'm going to call it, pretty much a generator. It says a grotesque gothic horror mega dungeon that's never the same twice. It's written by Kabuki Kaiser. That's what he goes by. And it's obviously an OSR supplement. And he gives you two suggestions for games you could play it with, is Labyrinth Lord and Limitations of the Flame Princess, because both of them offer free versions of their games, without art. And I would probably suggest Limitations of the Flame Princess just because it seems like it's more geared towards that. And I think it kind of suits very well the system that Limitations is. So this could be a big video, but I'm going to try to do my best. Of course, I know that I ramble off the mouth very quickly, so try to keep up if you can. But I'm going to try to keep it as precise as I can. So Castle Gargantua is a PDF that I bought a while ago when it came out. I gave it a quick look. I thought it was impressive. But recently I gave it a more deeper look, and I really saw, I would say, the word genius behind it. And I would put it up there with, some of the newer OSR products that are out there that I've talked about, one of them before, Maze of the Blue Medusa, Vornheim, Red Pleasant Land. It's this this type of writing that's obviously very kind of thinking outside the box, very creative, very strange, not really held down by a lot of earlier rules or parameters, and creative. I think that's more than what it is. A mixture of art and creative new stuff for OSR and role playing in general, which I think multiple different types of games should learn from. I would put that right up there with some of the best of that type of creative new way of kind of thinking or generating OSR products. So what is Castle Gargantua? This is a mega dungeon, but this is a mega dungeon in the sense of size and scale. This is not 114 pages, which is what PDF is. This is not 114 pages of nothing but maps and what's in each one of those rooms numbered that we've seen time and time again, which are very good. Barrowmaze, Stonehill, I love both of those. Those are two examples from Labyrinth Lord. This is Jack and the Beanstalk. This is my personal thing that I think about is Mickey Mouse actually in the Beanstalk. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I remember it being. And you're talking about rooms that are gigantic. On your grid paper, every 10 feet is 60 feet. So you're going to get rooms that are 180 by 120 feet. That's the size of these rooms. They are massive. Some of them are so massive they have their own weather system in there. They could rain inside there. You may think that you're looking at these huge wooden pillars, but they're actually pillars that lead up to what is in essence a table. So think of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in a way. But You're Not Shrunk is the place is gargantuan. So there it is. So I think there's some people have some misconception about the maps, about how the maps work in it. And there is one major map called the Big Picture, which I'll be talking about. And it once you read about how it's created, I think you'll start to see more of the genius behind it and how versatile it is. So yes, this is a large place. It's the height of pretty much, he says, about the Empire State Building. Huge land, about 4 million square feet. So that's absolutely a little bit below 4 million square feet. So that's massive. Okay. So there's spells that kind of keep people inside this. You can't teleport out of it and stuff like that. Again, every 10 feet is 60 feet when you're looking at your grid paper. And first off, he's going to give you a couple locations. Where is this Castle Gargantua at? It could be at the top of a gigantic beanstalk. We've heard of that before. Floating on a cloud. These are some options. Obviously, these are rolled up randomly. In a nightmare. And it says here, on a beach of black sand where white palm trees sway in no breeze. So very abstract, strange, unique, magical places, perhaps. And the one I like here is in a small crystal snowball. So again, really dealing with that heavy kind of weird strangeness of where its location may be. Castle Gargantua is for every character level, so you can start playing it right away with a bunch of new characters of low level. So what you're going to do is, when it comes to the monster size, they're going to kind of ebb and flow with the size, the average level of your party. So if the average level of your party is 1 to 2, there'll be no change in the monster size. But if it's 3 to 5, there'll be huge creatures, huge monsters. And what that entails is they'll be bigger and they'll have more hit dice. And then as they get bigger and bigger, enormous, and then gargantuan, they'll move faster and they'll do a lot more damage. then they become pretty much their morale is unbreakable, and they'll become harder to hit you because you're going to be so small, but you will also not be able to surprise them because you're not going to be able to surprise a big, huge monster. And then he has something for what he calls boss humans, which are going to be your average level plus 3 levels. So that's you find those throughout in some of the monsters that are actually that are written up in Castle Gargantua. You're then going to have a section on quests and rumors, how to get your characters into this place. And it's going to be D8 rolls based off character classes and races. And of course, a lot of these are obviously are limitations of the Flame Princess classes, such as the Specialist. So that's obviously going to tell you kind of where it is. And they're each going to be either true, false, partly true. You don't know. You could make it up as if you're the referee. What is it true? Is it false? A collector is offering up 3,000 silver pieces if the records of the castle, which he thinks are intact, are brought back to him. That's for specialists, thieves type characters. For magic users, Gargantua is a mad archmage, and this is his castle. Or there's a grand library within the castle where all the knowledge of the world has been stored. So a little bit of hooks and stuff that may bring those characters into this place. So it's got a little bit of art here and there in it, and I think it's pretty neat, kind of abstract looking pieces of art. And then it lays down the laws, pretty much navigating the big picture. The entrance to Castle Gargantua is kind of set, and it kind of describes the way the entrance is. And then what it's going to do is it's going to try to tell you about the big picture, which I spoke about earlier. Now, what the big picture is think about a board game where you have numerous squares, and you're going to roll a d6, and it's going to move you along that kind of path to the end of the game, the end of the board game. And he says in here, think about snakes and ladders. Okay. So what you have is you have each one of these squares. You're going to start off on what is known as a blue stone environment square. That's number one. Okay. So what you've got is you've got 5 different types of environments. You've got blue is for stone, pink is for lust, red is for blood, purple is for wine, and yellow is gold. Okay. And what each one of them are, they have a different type of environment. So blood is full of violence and dead things. Gold is special areas with greater treasure, which I'll be talking about those a little bit more in detail later. Lust is everything wild, horny, and naughty. And stone is deep dungeon halls, weird architecture, and grim corridors, something we probably all are very well familiar with. And wine is places that are distorted with alcohol and madness. So that shows you how the big picture kind of is, like the different types of environments. So each one of those squares is going to have a different color, which is going to correspond to that different type of environment. Like I said, blood, lust, stone, etc. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off at number 1. You're going to roll a d6, and that's going to move you just like a board game. It's going to move you down. They're all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to move you down the big picture. And so what I'll do is we start off at 1. I rolled a 4. That's going to take us to 5, obviously, and that's also a blue stone square. Now, in each one of these squares is anywhere between 4, 6, and 8 rooms. That's something up to you for you to decide if you want it to be a little bit smaller or larger. Okay. So for each one of those rooms, you're going to roll on that type of table that the environment's based on. And in this case, it's stone. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump over to stone. Okay, so we can get this, so you can really understand how this is. And this will make the rest of this video obviously a little bit, make more sense. Okay, so we're going to go to stone. The first square and the first rooms that your player's going to be in, it's going to be stone. So right off the bat, it says stone environments are like Dwarven City, a giant's fortress with vast halls and stern statues of weird, long-forgotten kings with too many eyes. Furniture when it exists, is cut directly into the stone of the walls and flagstone floors and the arched ceilings. So he gives you a list of different types of rooms and chambers that may be associated with this stone. It's going to be such as obsidian caves, ruby hall, storage rooms, strong room, grand hall, hallways, coal chamber, abandoned mine shaft. So you can see that kind of motif of where it's going. The furniture in the room is going to be neat. You're going to flip a coin. If it's tails, it's going to be man size. If it's head, it's going to be gargantuan. It's going to be anywhere between 6 and 8 times the normal proportions. If you get head. So right there, a table is going to look like just a huge pillar of wood. You'll see these 4 pillars of wood, but it's a huge table. Okay. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to roll all your polyhedral dice except for a percentile. Okay, so you can just take that die out of there. So you roll all of them together, which I'm going to do. We're making the stone room. So first it says that you take the D4. I've rolled a 4, and that's going to tell you the number and types of exits out of that room. So it's an iron door, a wooden door, a stone door, and an archway. Okay, good. Next, I'll look at the D6. It's 2. It's a rectangular chamber, either 2 by 3 or 3 by 4. So again, that's by, it's 60 foot for each one of those. Then we're going to look at the D8. The D8 is very important. So I've rolled up a 2. It says empty. And since it's empty, that means there's no treasures or monsters in that. So we can just disregard the D10 and we can disregard the D12. So now what we have is D20, the atmospheric details. I've rolled a 9, and it says here signs of recent stonework. Okay, that's in that one room of 4, 6, or 8 rooms that are in that square with the stone environment. Okay, and then when you're exiting, you can roll a D6. And it tells you, this says 6, the characters must climb several flights of stairs before they reach the next room or chamber. And that's we've created that whole room. Now, let's say we have rolled in that same thing. Let's say we had rolled up a monster. So our D8, if it had said, okay, I rolled a 6, monster, weirdness, or trap is in the room, okay? And there's no treasure rolled up, so I don't have to look at that one. But I'm going to look up the D12 because it says that there's monsters, so I'll roll up a D12. I rolled a 4, and that says greedy dwarves are in there. So what each one of those has in the treasure, monster, or trap, or weirdness is going to have its own section. It's going to have its own write-up. So I did greedy dwarves. These misfit dwarves are looking for plunder in the castle. While they may seem neutral or even friendly at first glance, they are prone to treacherous murderous fits and love to torture their victims before robbing them. It then gives you how many there are, their hit dice, what type weapons and armor they may have, and what damage they do, and their morale. Okay, and if they're slow or not, if they're maybe they act late, in initiative. So that right there, we've created that room. And you're going to do that for each room that you create. And then once they're done with those, that's when you're going to take your D6, go to the big picture, you're thinking about your board game, roll it again. And when you do that, you're going to say, okay, well, now that's going to take me, see where I say we were at 5 before. I've just rolled a 3, so that takes me to 8. That's a gold room. Now, the gold rooms are set rooms. In the back of the book, they have each one of them completely fleshed out, and they're in essence exactly what you know from a typical dungeon. They have a room, something going on special in them, and they've got they're completely statted out, and they have a bit of a story to them. They probably have great treasure in them, but they probably also have something either nasty or different or whatever. But those are essence typical statted out normal dungeon rooms that we know of, multiple rooms actually, and they're still gargantuan. So on the great picture, you're going to a couple of them have club symbols. If you land on a club symbol, it's going to take you back down when you're done searching that room. It's going to take you back down to one of the previous rooms. And again, that's going to give it that kind of labyrinth type feel where everything's connected. And that could be maybe a sliding staircase, a magical door, a portal that takes you down, a whole bunch of stuff that may change you and take you down to that lower level. Okay. There are roaming guards. And the guards are cool, the castle guards, because you're going to roll up what they're made out of. So let's roll a 5. They're made out of wax, these guards we've come across. Fire attacks melt them in D4 rounds, but they also have something special about them. So we rolled up a 3. They wield pole arms instead of, that do inflict D10 damage. Or if we want to make them a little bit more crazy, their faces are all featureless and avoid. So you can make each one of them made out of something different, and they have something special about them. They ignore all creatures except undead. They have no weapons, but their hands are like long claws, so they get attacked twice. They're very, very clumsy and have 50% chance to drop their weapon to the ground. So makes them unique each time you face them. Different item that they're, something different they're made out of, and a different property. Okay, so we've got blood. We've got blood's going to be places like barracks, butchery, cold room, crematorium, and it's going to have all new layouts for what type monsters are in there, what type treasures are in there. Different types of atmospheric details. Obviously, they're going to be more, towards blood, dried pools of blood puddles, fresh blood puddles, 1d6 random body parts, 2d4 broken weapons, and so on. And then again, unique treasure, unique monsters. And a lot of these monsters are a little bit more bizarre. Again, kind of stepping into that different realm of creativity, of creature. Flat caps, hybrid golem, oversized louse. So in essence, you got a huge louse that's going to try to suck the blood out of you. Sturges that we all well and know. So it still has that typical kind of, normal type of creatures we may know, but then again, it might have something strange to it. traps such as iron maidens, rusty spikes. There might be weirdness such as vampiric magic mouth that tries to drain your blood. You're going to have lust. And now lust is going to be stuff like kitchen, laundry, lounge, museum, bedroom, boudoir, bath, ballroom, um, on and on. Atmospheric details such as the smell of musk. There is a series of moans at a distance, torn silk curtains. And one thing I think was very clever is obviously, it says here he's written up a family friendly version. If you don't want to use lust, you can just add more stone squares. All of the lust ones turn into stone squares. So I think that was pretty clever for him to do. And then we've talked about stone, and then we've got wine, banquet hall, beggar's banquet, blue vineyard, dormitory, kitchen, wine cellar. And this is going to be a place of gruesome revelry and orgy. Most rooms, chambers, and quarters are built with a strong, thick kind of wood that smells faintly of rotten vegetation, old barrels, and grapes. So it's going to kind of give that kind of madness, the atmosphere of it. Puddles of vomit, a fountain of wine, smell of incense, a pool of urine. And again, like I've said, different treasures, monsters that obviously fit with the motif of what the environment is. And then once we're done with that, we're going to get to the gold rooms. So I see here there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different gold squares. And then they're going to have their own maps written up by Dyson Logos, which most of us already know his stuff, great stuff that he does for OSR. They have a name, and then they have pretty much their own kind of story, environment, and thing that's going on with them. They're completely normally statted out, room 1, room 2, room 3, as you know. So when you're looking through that, you look at the back and you just see a couple of maps and you say, oh, this just has a couple of maps. This isn't a big dungeon. Well, you're wrong. This thing could be not only massive in size, especially if each one of the squares each square is 8 rooms with corridors. There's 35 of these squares. So, that's going to be a lot right there. Obviously, the gold rooms have a couple of rooms themselves, the gold squares, I should say. So you can build a very massive one. You're just going to have to do a little bit of the legwork, count up what the room is, rolling your dice, figuring out the size and what's in there, the treasures and the monsters, and you're going to create a very large, not only many rooms, but of huge size. Your players are going to have to think about how they're going to climb up on stuff, getting down from things, just the massive size of it. And at the end of it all, the last chamber is going to have obviously a lot of combat. It's going to have a kind of a secret thing that I'm not going to spoil here, but it may be, you maybe want to spring this on your players. And it's going to be the end of it. And you can make that, you've pretty much finished Castle Gargantua. So, like I said, I think that he actually has a thing at the back too, which is pretty cool, where in essence, and I'll spoil this, pretty much the last boss of it is, he says it's in reference to TSR's infamous Castle Greyhawk. Use it with due caution, in which you, the dungeon master, the referee, are the main boss. And he pretty much tells you how you can run that. So you, behind your screen, is the boss that they fight. And I think that's pretty neat, especially for using miniatures in front of you. You're going to be the creature that they attack and kill. So that's Castle Gargantua. The 5 different environments, all having different types of atmosphere, different types of treasure, different types of weirdness and monsters. And then it's never going to be played the same way twice, mainly because you're going to have that D6, much like it says on the front of the book. D6 jumping you from different type of squares, different type of squares with different type of environments, sliding you back down, and in essence creating your own Castle Gargantua that's going to be different. It's not going to be the same each time. You may not even face some of the creatures because you may only go into maybe, let's say, a wine square maybe once or twice throughout all of Castle Gargantua based off the D6 that you roll. So, and you may not roll up the actual creatures that are in those rooms. Those rooms are going to be maybe empty. So if I'm not mistaken, a fourth of the monsters are going to be, when you roll a D8, is going to be empty, meaning there won't be any monsters in there. So that's half of your D8 right there. So you may go into some of the rooms, there's not monsters in there. So you may never face those things. Maybe you'll do it on maybe you run it again if you're going to run this, and they will. You're going to have players, roll up a bunch of certain type of rooms that you didn't before. So I think that it's written very well. I think that it is something that you really need to read. You can't just half-ass read it and be like, oh, I get it. Okay, whatever. You need to really read it and read how to create the castle. And then once I think you do that, you'll see just the scope of it and how large, both sense, it can be, how much gameplay you can get for it, out of it. It's going to be deadly. It's going to be fierce against your players. This could be a big, slaughter for a lot of your players. But it could be really, really damn cool. I think with a lot of just not allowing yourself to kind of on the fly create this stuff, and it's going to be something that I think will be unique from each group of players to each group of players. In the very back, he's got kind of a worksheet that has each of the squares, their colors, and what pretty much you rolled up, so you can keep track of what those rooms were. I think that's pretty handy as well. So there it is, Castle Gargantua. If you didn't know about it, maybe you know a little bit more about what it can give for you with those different types of environments, the different stuff you kind of roll up. And if you don't like randomly generated castles and stuff, then obviously this is not going to be a product for you. But there's plenty of here that you could pull out of it, especially some of the monsters, the traps, the treasure that's in there. But I think if you really want to sit down, you're going to have a unique experience that not a whole bunch of other stuff out there is going to be able to give you, especially with the size and the scope. With every square being 60 feet, you're going to really have to kind of change your mind up to understand that. But I think if you do, you'll have a lot of fun. So there it is, Castle Gargantua. Highly recommended. Like I said, I read it the first time, thought it was cool, read it real in depth the second time, and thought it was very smart and highly of great praise. So there it is. It's a mega dungeon in many sense of the word, and I think it's one that you'll probably enjoy. So thanks for watching.